Boys and girls, we're back for another edition of the Truman Lake Fishing Intel Expert Roundtable. I got a great crew with me tonight. It's February 10th. It is pretty dang nice weather here recently. The lake is opening up, so we got a lot of exciting stuff to talk to you about tonight. Before we get started, as usual, we want to say thank you to a couple of folks, Nini's Italian Steakhouse and Catering, who catered dinner for us again tonight. We had some of their spaghetti, some of their pizza, all good stuff. You can find them down in Warsaw, Missouri. If you are a member of the website and you show them your membership, you can get a free appetizer. So when you're in town, you're coming down for the weekend, or you're staying in Warsaw, or staying in Clinton, and you want to go somewhere a little different for dinner, head on down and get a free appetizer. So keep that in mind. Just show them your membership, and you'll get that done. So and then in addition to Nini's, I want to thank Anglers Port Marine as well, located between Clinton and Warsaw, Missouri. They are a low Camus and Phoenix dealership. They won quite a few awards this past year, and they'll get you taken care of. Richard's been with Anglers Port, bought boats from Anglers Port
for about 4 years.
Yep.
Brand new boat came in yesterday.
Yep.
Ready to get it.
So he's a happy camper.
It's yellow.
Yeah, of course. Of course it is.
Yep. So be sure to stop on by. And that actually brings me into, they are going to be at the Truman Lake Fishing Expo here in Clinton this weekend. So by the time you guys see this video, the Truman Lake Fishing Expo will have started. Friday and Saturday, so that's going to be the 11th and 12th. Truman Lake Fishing Intel will have a booth. Some of these fishing guides will be there. In fact, quite a few of our crew will be filtering in and out, so you'll get to meet them, talk to them, maybe book a trip. Anglers Port Marine is there. A bunch of great local outdoor hunting and fishing companies. Everhart's, I know, has got a big old display there with kayaks. So be sure to come to the Truman Lake Fishing Expo, show your support. There's several seminars as well. So going to be a good weekend. Going to be there all day on Friday and all day on Saturday. So be sure to come on out for that. And then as far as any other announcements go, one more is that you guys may recall we were running several fishing trip giveaways here in 2021. We have drawn the winners, haven't announced them yet. We're going to be dropping those videos here in the coming week, announcing those winners, so be on the lookout. And if you recall, there were several different ways you could win a fishing trip giveaway. One was just being a paid member of the website, whether it was a Pro Plus, a Crappie, a Bass, a Catfish member. As long as you were a paid member, you got one entry for that. So we drew a winner out of there. Actually, we drew two winners out of there. And two of those folks, one of them will be going with Richard, one of them will be going with Kyler. A winner was drawn to go out with Jeff Falconberry, and the way that person won, if you submit a member fishing report on the website, for every single member submitted fishing report that you put up, you get an entry into the drawing. So this last year, a lot of folks didn't know about it, so there's a few folks that put up quite a bit. They had a majority of the entries. They had a really good chance to win. So keep that in mind when you're out on Truman Lake and you get back to your house at the end of the weekend and you throw up a fishing report, you're going to get an entry into a fishing trip giveaway. We're going to keep doing these giveaways every single year. And then the last one is if you are a paid member, and then also go leave us a review on Facebook. Let us know what you think of the website. All those folks that did that also got an entry for a fishing trip giveaway. So keep that in mind. We're running the same exact giveaways this year. We may add in a few more, but those are all ways that you can get entered into a fishing trip giveaway. So with that, that's all the announcements. Now we can get to the really, really good stuff. It's been a ton of ice here recently. Cold, cold, cold. If you follow Facebook, you've probably seen the memes that are out there where it says, you know, your winter time, your fall spring, your second winter, and every meme that's getting shared right now that says we're in a fall spring. So we got another winter coming, but the weather's looking pretty good here the next few days. The ice has cleared off. Richard, you were out today. Kyler, you were out today. What was some of the ice conditions looking like out in the lake?
Main lake is open. The creeks have got ice in them. Where I was on the Tebow arm.
Yep, I was on the mid Grand Arm, and ice this afternoon was the main lake was open, and the majority of the creeks that I was around, from the mouth to midway back, was also open. So it's opening up pretty good.
Yeah. And I know, so a couple days ago, I went and took some drone video and photos of the Sparrowfoot area. In fact, it was yesterday morning. It was all ice, the whole area, ice. And as of this afternoon, Sparrowfoot, actually it was this morning, Jeff was over there, you could get into Sparrowfoot. A couple guys that kind of, they'd done something a little sketchy to get in,
Yeah.
but they got in. But as of this afternoon, it was wide open, so the Upper Grand is looking pretty good as well. When you say it's iced up in the creeks, I mean, how far back in the creeks are you seeing the ice?
I put in on the T-boat today, and I put in early, 7 o'clock, and from the first third back was solid ice. But I broke the ice. I did big circles in the ice like we do, and fixed it where I could fish, and schools of fish, and very, very easy.
Mm-hmm.
It's wanting to be under that ice, what it's wanting to be, just schools of fish. Once you break that out, where you can push it around with your trolling motor, it was game on.
Mm-hmm.
So the ice is, pretty thin. 2 days ago at the state park, I broke that ice, and it was 2.5 inches, 2 inches thick. Today's gone.
Yeah.
So
And you and I were talking about this the other day, especially for first-time boat owners. What size ice is it like, oh, no go?
man, when it gets up inch and a half thick,
too.
2 inches.
Yeah.
About what he was pushing,
Yeah.
I'm sure it was borderline.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it wasn't my boat.
Oh, that,
Sorry, Doc.
That makes a
you asked to
difference.
borrow my boat, I thought.
Years, and I think I might have said this last month. I had went through a cut through 2 years ago. The ice got real thick, and I could have went around the ice and went to the fish I caught the day before, but I chose not to because I was wanting to check out new spots. And I was on a guide trip, and my guy wanted to find new fish or just stick around. So I rode up on this iceberg, and the boat, my Ranger boat then, this has been a few years back, you'd ride up on it and fall through, up on it and fall through. When I got done, my bill was $2,000. Because what it was doing on that Ranger boat, which is built well, it's a 2008 boat, the boat would kind of push in and it would break up pieces of fiberglass on the sides of the boat. So, if it's an inch thick fiberglass boat, I wouldn't do it. Inch or more, no. Metal boat, you probably get by with it.
Okay. Are you going to be breaking 1.5 2 inch ice in your new boat?
No, it'll stay in the garage.
Stay
I've been in a lot of turns where you take off down through there, especially early, and you think, well, it's clear, and all of a sudden,
Yeah.
you're like, oh
goes
my
getting
God, I'm
across
running
the
down a
edge.
gravel road.
Yeah.
You're thinking, yeah, it's not good. Not good.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit more about the fishing. Richard and Kyler, you guys have been out quite a bit. I know, Hunter, you got out here recently. I kind of want to talk about all the different areas. It sounds like you guys have all been all over. Richard, can you tell me a little bit about what the bite has been like since the ice came out? It's been pretty lights out, sounds like.
Honestly, it's almost too easy right now. I hate to say that, but it has been. I've been putting in at Shawnee Bend, not today, but the days prior. And I've been fishing the little T-bow, the big T-bow, the lower end, and the schools of fish are as big as your house.
Mhm.
I mean, from 12 foot down, 14 foot down to 30 foot down. And all you do is pitch a jig at, and what I learned, I put on small line, I put on 4-pound test, and I'd pitch that jig at, feed it line, and when you count down to 18 or whatever you want to do, you watch it fall on that live scope. Once it gets in that school of fish, all you gotta do is make one crank and you got a fish on it.
Mhm.
It's that easy. If you spider rig through them, you could put we was pitching 2 jigs, me and a buddy of mine, Doc Espy, pitching 2 jigs, catching 2 fish. It goes too quick.
Mhm.
So you want to take your time, but the fishing is great. Fish the bluffs down there, and it's not like the Upper Grand, like what we like to pick one fish at a time. It's
Hundreds.
thousands
Yeah.
of fish. And you can see it on my Facebook. It's unreal.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're shad. There's so many.
They look like shad, but there is no shad.
That's
in
what I
them.
say, you're not seeing a lot of shad right in and
You can
around.
go, no, that school of fish I was on 2 days ago, I never left that school of fish, and we caught 80-some keepers out of that one school.
Yeah.
I never left them, never let them fish. But then you go off to the side 50 yards, and there's a school of shad. And sometimes the school of shad would be above the crappie, and sometimes below it.
Mm-hmm.
But then if you got a jig or a minnow, and that day we didn't. Today I had minnows. That day, no, they'd run and eat that jig. They'd come 5 feet away. And what's neat about it, when you pitch that jig at, you got all them fish. So this thick, 20 foot here. Pitch that jig at, and you can see it in there. and you'll see a fish from down here come up. It comes from 10 feet away. These right here by it, they don't react to it, but you see them come running to it from the sides of it. Yeah, it's pretty cool. They're not all going to eat, but I guarantee it's pretty easy.
Yeah, that's incredible. And are a lot of these fish, it sounds like you're finding them both just kind of out in the open and also relating around some timber in the channel, or are they mostly out in the open?
Them fish on the lower end is all open water fish. Every fish is in, I mean, they're not even around a tree. I was up in the T-bow today, and it's all pretty close to structure, and same thing, 20 foot of fish, easy to catch, just put a jig in there and you catch them. So lower end of the lake, they're just, roaming around. Upper end is on structure.
Yeah.
And a lot of fish we caught when we went Sunday and I went last night. You think down the lake, there's going to catch a lot of small fish, but we really didn't catch that many small crappie.
Well, you pitch a jig in and out, if you use them little minnows. Today we used minnows, and we caught probably 15 short fish, had 60 keepers pretty quick. But you pitch that jig in there, or 2 jigs, whatever you want to do, you don't catch many, a month ago, I was cussing the lower end because catching so many little fish. Now then, you pitch out there with that jig only, and it's pretty much 90% going to be a keeper fish.
So where'd all the little fish go? Why the sudden change?
No, they're still there. Just putting that jig in there is the difference.
Okay.
Yep.
And the jigs you're using, are they hair jigs? Are they plastics? What length are they? I mean, what's the secret sauce on the jig?
For me, it's a white and chartreuse hair jig or a gray hair jig. And man, they run to get it. They don't just look at it and run away. They run to get it. And when they hit it, they hit it.
And you said you're fishing, it sounds like deeper water than what you're normally doing in the Upper Grand. Does that make a difference on the size of jig that you're using?
What I'm doing now, just that slow fall, that 16th ounce by itself, they cannot stay in that fall on. It looks like a dead shad coming out of what it does.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Just floats and flutters down.
And it's kind of a pain. I had Hunter and Sean out the other day, and Sean had cast down, I think it was Sean, and he counted to 18. Well, I can catch 12 fish before I count to 18.
Yeah.
But that's what it was taking to get that one little jig down there. But every time it got down there, a fish would come and eat it.
Yeah.
Because they want that little profile. It looks like a little shad, and they run to get it. So that's what we was doing. But you don't have to do that. You can run 2 jigs. You can run a half-ounce sinker with 2 jigs on it and catch them. But it's just fun to kind of slows the pace down a little bit.
Yeah. What was it? Did I hear earlier you were out on your boat or something and you were having trouble finding them at first and then...
He sent me on a wild goose chase.
Yeah, that's what, I was kind of wondering if it was maybe a little intentional.
I think it was.
No. I sent him to them. No people. I sent him to the fish, but he went a little bit too far. So he called it dead, wrong. Except to use some different words. I said, no, pull out a little bit, you'll find them. So then a little bit later, boy, they're here, Dad. And it was only like 70 yards.
Yeah.
He was
Really?
off that much.
We didn't see a crappie, went to seeing hundreds. I mean, fill your graph up.
He was going to go load the boat. I said, no, wrong. Turn around. Come back out a little bit. And he did. He said, yeah, you're right.
It was unreal.
And you guys are doing the same thing, jigs? And
Same thing. I used 2 8-ounce jigs. Just
Okay.
doubled them up. And I used a monkey milk and chartreuse. It's like a slider type thing. You
Okay.
pitch out to them, just let it fall through them. And it was unreal. It was fun.
He was using plastic jigs.
Yeah.
Nice jigs.
Gotcha. Kyler, what's the story in the Upper Grand? I know you were in the mid-Upper Grand area today. What's the story there?
So mid to Upper Grand, pretty much pick your poison. They are on trees. They are out in the open water. There's big schools in the open water. There's also some, bigger singles and doubles in open water. Today we pretty much just went around fishing trees, and then when we get out of trees, we just cut across the open water and then find schools out there and fish for them too. And a lot like what he was saying, it was pretty easy. Like, it was pretty easy to get bit. And I even ran through a bunch of different baits, kind of just seeing what all we could catch them on.
Mm-hmm.
And we caught them on 16th hair jigs, 8-ounce hair jigs, grays, a lot like, I'm sure, probably what you were throwing. And then I even went up to as big as 3-inch baits with 1/4-ounce jig heads. A pink pro-built jig head with a 3-inch plastic on it. Man, they were knocking the fire out of it too. The creek mouths were loaded. Channel edges were loaded. about everywhere. I mean, honestly, everywhere I went, there was just crappie everywhere.
And did you say you aren't working your way back into the creeks a whole lot right now?
You don't have to.
Yeah. And did you say same situation up there today where the ice is still fairly present once you got about halfway to the last third, or?
Well, like I said, I mean,
could you see?
Personally, I never even made it that far back. I just stayed at the mouth. There were so many fish right there around the mouth that there was no need to go anywhere else. But as far as back as I could see ice about halfway back,
Gotcha.
3/4 of a way back is where the ice was. And I did make a little sachet going on down into the creek and just kind of turned back around, and it was the same way all the way through. There's just fish everywhere.
Yeah.
Lake of the Ozarks is really good right now too. Big schools in open water, a lot like, and I was on the low end of the Lake of the Ozarks. I was down around the dam area, at the mouth of the Gravelboys is where I fished yesterday, and it's unreal down there. Also, it's just giant schools out in open water. Any kind of little brush pile you can find in about 20 to 25 foot is loaded, and I was doing the exact same thing you were doing. I was throwing a 16-ounce hair jig out to them, letting it drip down. As soon as it get down to them, to start winding it through them, and every cast catch one. And some bass. It'd be like catching bass.
How's boat traffic down in Lake of the Ozarks this time of year? Down that end.
There is fishermen,
Okay.
just guys
Yeah.
fishing.
Yeah.
Yep,
So that's the time to be fishing.
absolutely,
on Lake of the
100%.
Ozarks.
This is the best time to be on Lake of the Ozarks,
Well, and not just
especially on the low end.
yeah, and not just for crappie. I mean, I'm sure you've been following Darren. They're pulling some big bags of bass
Yeah, they are.
out of there.
Lake of the Ozark's tremendous fishery this time of year.
Yeah.
And the reason is because there is no boat traffic, you can actually fish it.
Yep.
But it's always good this time of year.
Yeah.
And it's jerkbaits and wiggleworts and
I
A-rig.
wish I had some bass equipment the other day because
Yeah.
we'll wipe out some biggins.
yeah.
I broke one of them off on a crappie jig.
I know Brad Jelinek and Brock Rinkemeyer have been on quite a roll here recently.
They're 20-pounder guys.
Yeah, they're going nuts down there, which is awesome. What do you attribute Lake of the Ozarks? Because Truman really isn't known and even pursued really this time of year as a bass lake. Is it because there's so much pressure during the summer that it keeps fishing pressure off of them on the bass down there, and that's why wintertime continues to be good? I mean, what are your thoughts?
Truman's good too.
Yeah.
Because nobody fishes it. There's no tournaments on Truman that time of year, so nobody really fishes it too much. I mean, they do. Truman really is better when it just starts warming up. I mean, when it gets to 40 or at least high 30s and it's starting to gradually warm up, Truman gets as good as any of them. Lake of the Ozarks, it's a different animal. It's probably one of the top 5 lakes in the nation.
I would.
I mean, I'm not going to say it's not Florida, it's not Texas. You're not going to go down there and catch 10 pounders
Right.
every day, but to go down and catch just
you can
fish,
catch a ton of 2 to 3 pounders.
ton of
I mean,
fish.
a
It's
ton
just
of 2 to 3
full
pounders.
of them right now, and you don't have to be a genius to catch them. I mean,
It's pretty
these guys winning the tournaments and you're not going to go down there and catch 25 pounds
Right.
like they are winning these tournaments, or 23, but you can go down there and catch 14, 15 pounds and just have a heyday.
Right.
They're throwing jerk baits and A-rigs, and you can just go down there and toss an A-rig, and you don't have to be a genius to throw an A-rig. I mean,
Right.
you gotta be strong. You
Yeah.
can pour out by the end of the
Yeah.
day.
You might,
But
chances are you're gonna have more than one on.
yeah, so, but these guys are probably targeting them. A lot of them, I think, are probably targeting them live scope, and they're just throwing at them and working it right over the top
Yeah.
of them. You can see it on YouTube, and
I got on a little deal there yesterday. I wish I had, because I also had only a 4-pound line on, and I broke off a big. I mean, she was full grown. She was big, and I dug around and dug around. I don't have anything for bass fishing on the boat anymore, and I finally found me a. I don't even know why I have it. It's a great big giant hair jig that I tied up. Puffer grenade, if I was guessing. It's probably an idea that I had, and I found that and I slung it out there in the very next cast. Another one shot out there and wham, and pow. I was like, God. And I actually went to a bait store the next morning. So that was 3 days. That was 2 days ago. I went to the bait store the next day and I had just a whole pile of stuff. I was like, I'm gonna go catch them big boogers, and then I had a basketball game I had to go to and I forgot about it. So I restocked the shelves all back up.
Yeah.
Put everything back, and I went to the basketball game instead. But bass fishing and crappie fishing is lights out on Lake of the Ozarks.
Well, and this time of year, it can be really good right below the dam in the dead water, correct?
Mhm.
Where
Well,
you,
the dead water as of Friday was froze.
I'm
Oh,
sure
really?
it's solid.
Froze solid all the way
Yeah, I'm sure
to
it's
the mountain.
solid.
I haven't gotten a report from anyone yet if that's opened
I
up.
drove across it
I
the
know
other day and it was froze solid.
Okay.
the upper end. I had a buddy fish it yesterday, and I visited with him, and he said like Little Buffalo. You guys know where Little Buffalo's at? He could just barely make it into the mouth. But that was yesterday. I'm sure it opened up a lot today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, and all of them creeks. I mean, any creek on Lake of the Ozarks you can pull into and whack crappie in them.
Yep.
Yeah, and
They're all
I said Friday, but it was actually Wednesday. Today, tomorrow's Friday.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was froze up. But yeah, that's as soon as it unthaws, it'll be
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dolls
like
out,
usual.
get a little
It'll be-
current going.
it'll be ready to go.
Now, one of the other popular things, I don't know if it's popular, some of the locals might not like us talking about it, but walleye fishing down below the dam, now's about the time to get started, isn't it?
Yep. As soon as they start little current,
Yeah.
it'll get rolling.
Here on
Truman.
below Truman Dam.
Right below the dam,
You can
yeah.
also do it below Bagnell.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do it every year below Bagnell too.
Darren's got pretty dang big walleye on the wall. What was the story on that one? You caught that below the dam, didn't you? So what was just down there? And,
I mean, you go down there and you'll cast. It's 1,000 casts,
yeah.
and some days you'll go down there and you'll just catch them that quick. And next time you might fish 20 more times and not get a bite.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody just piles up. And you make the same cast every time, and it's like you're at Bennett Springs.
Wait
Yeah,
for one to
but-
swim through.
And then all of a sudden, just bang, bang. But the more you can move up and down them rocks when people aren't there, you can make just little moves. Don't have to be much.
Mm-hmm.
And just so you make a different cast. But I go down there and I find a spot. If you go down there, stand up on top and look for the eddy.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big giveaway. Look for any eddy you see. Don't
Mhm.
walk down there and just start fishing. Look for an eddy. So that, and when I say eddy, it's a current swirling.
Mm-hmm.
That way you can cast your 1/8 ounce jigs or 1/16 ounce jigs out there, and they'll go down. The current won't take them down. You
Right.
can get down where the walleye are at. But look for that. Walk down there and just, lock in. And the nastier of the day,
Yep.
that's when you'll catch them.
Mm.
You go down there when nobody else is down there, and it's miserable, and that's when you'll catch them.
Yeah.
And the bigger ones will move up later. We're a little ways away from the bigger ones coming in. It'll be a bunch of males caught.
Mm-hmm.
I went down there one time and seen a guy. He was standing right beside me. It was from me to you.
Yeah.
We're fishing beside each other. You might as well not get mad about it and just visit.
Yeah.
And I just set my dip. He didn't have a dip net. I set mine over, and I netted 2 over 10 pounds for him.
Wow.
He had a stringer full of giants.
Mhm.
But
Big
and I'm standing right beside him. I never caught a fish. but the next time I go down, it might be the opposite.
Right.
It's really a lot of luck. But there's some guys that are good at it. Doug Schilling, he is one of the best down there I've ever been around.
Mhm.
The guy I hate going with him. He just goes down there and it's like, this is simple.
Yeah.
5 pounder, 6 pounder. You're like, what in the world are you doing?
Uh-huh.
But sometimes you'll just catch one. Sometimes you'll catch 4. You usually don't go down there and catch. You're not gonna go down there and catch 10 or 12.
Right.
You'll go down there. You might catch your limit, but most of the time 1 to 3.
Mhm.
But 4 or 5 pound walleye makes pretty good fillet.
Yeah.
Very good.
Very good.
And you're throwing, it's just like a little swim bait on a jig head, right?
I actually caught that big one. I caught on just a crappie jig.
That's what we always use down below.
Just any kind of bright crappie jig usually. A lot of people throw either white or just a bright color. Orange is a great color for walleye. Don't want to throw anything very expensive.
I was gonna
Because you won't get it back. There's a lot of line down there,
Yep.
and especially when they get to generating current, that line gets out there, and you'll feel it as you're reeling your jig through. You'll feel pressure, and you hope it just comes back to you.
Right.
But you just want to take crappie jigs. Don't go down there and wing no crankbait out there because it's not coming back.
I've been down there a number of times where I'm casting out exactly what you're saying, just slow wind in and boom, set the hook and fighting it for a minute, and then you're like, wait a sec.
Yeah.
you're online.
Feels good though.
It does. Like
It's
you put,
exciting.
you put on a good show. Anyone who's around you thinks you got a
Well,
giant.
if, some people go down there and they when braid got introduced, it really got bad because a lot of people go down there and think, well, I'm gonna fish braid and straighten my hook. Well, a lot of times it's not your hook. It's your jig head getting wound, getting wedged in between some rocks. Well, then you just break a bunch of braid off,
Which is worse.
which
Yeah.
is worse.
Way
And then
worse.
you can't break that.
Right.
I mean, when you hook into it, you're hung too. Next thing you know, there's 30 people hung in that piece of braid.
Yeah.
So just
You
go
got
down
line
there and
everywhere.
throw 8-pound line and set your drag and fight them. That's part of the fun anyway.
That's awesome. That well, it'll be cool to see some pictures start rolling in here pretty soon,
It won't be
hopefully.
long.
So, so Richard, we were talking about crappie. You've done some catfish trips here in the last few weeks. What's kind of some of the latest stuff on that? What you've been finding? What the bite's been like?
You know, with the upper grand starting to open up, you can go out in the main lake, the channel out there, and catch your shad. Then move up to where the wind's blowing up on the bank, tie up your boat, anchor fish, and fan cast them poles. And it's anywhere that wind's blowing up on them shallow banks, you know, the flat bank is great. And anchor the boat. I fan cast 12 poles, what I do, and in front of the boat in 1 foot of water you'll catch a bunch, and behind the boat in 6 foot of water you'll catch a bunch. So the bait's pretty easy to get. They're big shad, you know, on the upper grand, and then like I say, just cut them up and tie up. Move 50 yards, 50 yards, 50 yards till you load the boat.
Yeah,
Gotta have some wind though.
yeah.
Using
Now-
circle hooks.
I do. I use an 8/0 circle Gamakatsu hook. Yep.
Now this time of year, when ice is out, just coming out. I mean, is this typically when we might see a little bit of a shad kill, or
Yep,
have you has there been any evidence of that down in the lower end, the upper end?
Yep. I've been seeing shad down there on the state park area. You know, the lower grand. They've been shad frozen in the ice, and you see them seagulls on the ice pecking at it. Yeah, quite not as many as I've seen years past, but there's shad down there.
And I guess the question is, typically, could that potentially make catfishing a little more challenging when they've got a bunch of dead shad that they might be feeding
The upper
on?
grand, that's what helps it. It blows all them weak or dead shad. You know, a lot of times you'll see them shad just kind of fluttering and kicking in the water on the top, and what, you know, that's what's pushing up on the banks, and that's what they're feeding on. So up there it's better. Down below, I don't fish down the lake.
Yeah.
I can't tell you.
Yeah,
Up there it's good,
yeah.
easy.
Well, and I mean, I've been out with Jeff a few times here recently where, you know, we're just side scanning and you're like nothing, and all of a sudden it's like every catfish in the lake is right there.
Yeah.
I mean, it is
And
incredible.
that's what they're doing. They're feeding on them shad, and I think he had a big day on up there today. So,
Yeah,
but I know he's been on the Osage the last few days, and he's catching them wherever he goes. Same thing, catching the bait and getting up shallow.
yeah. Well, his graphs, he's got them dialed in. I mean, I don't have as trained eyes you guys do, but it's like when we saw those fish, it was very obvious what we were looking at.
You see your eyes. Yeah.
You cannot miss it, even if you're not as experienced looking at graphs like I am. It was a no doubter, and you could pick out the gar that were in there as well. I mean, it was plain as day. So that was pretty cool to see. I know on the lower end, I think Jordan and Cody had been having to fish a little deeper recently.
Yeah, they're fishing real deep down there.
Yeah.
And I think Cody had a pretty good day today.
Yeah, he
Catch a lot
caught
of
quite a few today. I think I saw
Yep.
he caught. He had a big group out with him. They kept 40, I want to say.
That's a lot of cleaning.
Yeah,
That's a bunch.
yeah. So, catfishing's pretty dang good. Let's kind of talk about, you know, it's early February. You know, we'll see if the Missouri weather holds true or we end up getting another cold spell. I'm sure we will. It seems like we've gotten snow in March and April here the last couple of years.
Yep.
But historically, looking forward to like what the crappie are going to be doing here the next month into March. What's your expectations?
Mine is that it's going to be on fire. You're going to get in the creeks. You're going to take a 6, 8, 10-foot pole, and you're going to see a fish out there on the live scope. And you're going to pitch that jig out there, and when it gets within 5 foot of it, it's going to run and get it. It's probably going to be one of the most aggressive and more fish scattered out than you've ever seen. It's not gonna be schools of fish, it's gonna be one, and it's gonna be very simple.
Whereas right now, I mean, we talked about it earlier, the schools are, you almost, it's one of those things where you almost have to see it with your own eyes on the graph to believe it.
I couldn't even put a number on how many
Thousands.
fish I've seen today.
Yeah.
The
In
Garmin,
not a very big area that I was in. I was
Yeah.
in pretty small little areas.
you know, the Garmin's only 20 degrees wide, and we're shooting out 30 feet, I am 30 feet out. And if you turn, it's that way for a long ways.
Yeah.
Today, on my trip today, this is no lie, you set the hook on the fish and you got the fish coming, and you know you've got it in the mouth because it's coming up smooth, and then all of a sudden there's a blank spot, then boom, and you snag one. That's how thick they are. But they're gonna be more scattered in March in the upper grade, and it's gonna be, they're gonna, every one of them eat, you get just a little jig beside them, they're gonna eat.
Yeah. Now I know due to where everybody kind of lives, the Grand Arm, the Tebow Arm, the Lower Lake Dam area, Lower Osage seem to be kind of the deal. The Osage Arm, is it going to be pretty similar to the way the Grand Arm behaves?
Exactly the same as the Grand Arm. Yep.
Same.
Same water, quality, same color. They fish the same. If you look at them on the map, they're kind of shaped the same, so they're going to fish the exact same.
Yeah.
Just no marinas over there is the only difference.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I know we were talking about earlier the Palmy Arm, just what kind of potential might be over there. We don't cover it a ton because it's the furthest. I mean, it's what, an hour and, well, from here,
That's a
hour
long
and
way.
20, hour and a half just to get into. But we were talking about that earlier with what potential is sitting over there
A lot.
in
There's a
the
lot.
in the Palmy Arm. Have you guys spent much time?
I went down there last year. I had a trip down there last year's electronics training, and that's what them guys fished at all the time. And I said, yeah, so that'll work. So I just met them over there. I just drove my pickup over there and met them. And I don't even know where I was at. Never been there before. Some little old gravel ramp. I said, is this the main lake? He said, yep. And it was just like a little old river. And I said, well, just take me to where you think some crappie's at. And he was all right. And I was kind of looking around. I was thinking, what just stop anywhere. It looks pretty good to me.
Yeah.
And we stopped. I threw his trolling motor down, and his transducer was backwards. Pulled back up, swapped that around, and we caught goatfish down there. Big black crappie down there.
Lots
Yeah.
of blacks.
Big
yeah.
big
Lot of
black crappie. Like it's a long ways from here, but
Right.
it was
Right.
good. It was unreal.
Right. Here being in Clinton, and well, that's good to know. I mean, it's something that we'll hope to cover a little bit more of. It's far away from pretty much everyone who comes from this area of the lake. I mean, it's just not a.
It doesn't get the pressure. It's
Yeah.
a long ways from here. Your closest marina is going to be Osage Bluff. Your closest boat or actual ramp, core ramp, is Fairfield. And it's in the Little Palmy, which don't get fished much at all either.
Way out of the way.
It's way out of the way, but you're right there at 83 Bridge. Now there's only really there's two gravel roads that I can think of that you can actually put in. I've been there and I couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
I took out
I don't have
one
a
of
clue where I was
them.
at.
I shelled my lower unit up there one time in the river. I took out of one of them and I had to have a camper. And it cost me a case of beer, and he took me to Osage Bluff, and he led me back, and I have no idea how I got there, but there's a road that goes down there, probably the same one he did, is up towards the river.
Yep.
But it's a great arm to
Yeah,
fish, and it
awesome.
doesn't get fished. It's full. It's a lot different as far as hedges. You don't have the hedges. It's all cedars. It's got a ton of cedars. It's got good creeks in it. It's got good pockets. It's a good
Lots of
fishery.
fish.
Lots of fish. Lots of blackfish.
Yeah.
Black crappie.
Yep.
I know it's under the radar for crappie. It's not so under the radar on bass fishing.
No, it's locked and loaded on bass.
Yeah.
It's the bass running a little bigger up there, and it gets 10 years ago, you used to never see anybody up there. Now it's the honey hole. Now
Yeah.
it's where everybody goes.
Yeah.
It's a great fishery. Usually got better water clarity. Water stays a little warmer in the spring, a little cooler in the summer because of Palmy. It pumps out of Palmy Lake, and it's just a great arm.
As far as the bass fishing goes, I know we might still be a little early before folks are really getting caring about bass fishing on Truman, but what are your expectations? When are you going to start getting after it?
Well, we have another one of these fall springs. It's time to start getting after it. The water temperature just raised a little bit. You see the dying shad, that's a good sign. bass fishing is a little opposite of catfishing. You really don't want to fish where you see the dying shad because you're trying to mimic that, and it's almost impossible to mimic it. So
Right.
I mean, yeah, you see it, so you know what's happening. But so you want to throw the jerkbait
Yeah.
and mimic that dying shad. You can vary your pauses and stuff. But this time of year, I mean, I fill up the bathtub and set the water temperature to about 40 degrees in the bathtub water, and I drop my jerkbaits in there and I wait them until they suspend. I mean, that's something I do so you don't have to, you don't want to do that on the water. It takes too long. Have that ready.
Now, so some folks might not know what you mean by waiting. Are you taking the lead wire? How are you doing that?
You can use suspend strips or suspend dots.
Okay.
Or lead wire. I do both.
Okay.
I've also changed out hooks.
You can change out hooks. I do that. You can add a bigger hook in the center or back or front. All baits are different. That's why I fill up the bathtub, put them in it, hold them underwater, let them go. And you want that bait to either suspend completely or sink real slow. Not very, I mean, I'm talking count to 5 and sink, 3 or 4 inches. You don't want it to sink very much faster than that. But you can add a bigger hook
Yeah.
or add just suspend strips or suspend dots or wrap a little bit of wire around your hook chain.
Lots of options.
Lots of options there.
I imagine the answer to this is it's personal preference, but have you found does it make a difference whether you're doing the suspend strips versus the wire? What's your personal preference?
I have always caught more fish on the suspend strips than I have the wire. But I don't know that matters. It might just be, I know a lot of guys that win a lot of tournaments at fish wire.
Yeah.
So I don't think it matters. The only thing with the strips, the reason I like the strips is because when I put that strip on there, it's about 3/4 of an inch long probably. When I put it on there and I go fishing, say the water warmed up or cooled off, and I notice that bait is sinking or rising, if it's sinking too fast, I just take my scissors and just take a little piece off of it, and I flip it back out there. But once you get the bait wet, they're hard to keep on there. You want them on there prior to.
Yeah.
And so that's one reason I throw them.
Yeah.
I like that more than I do the others, but that's just my personal preference.
I haven't done a lot of jerkbait fishing in that time of year for bass, but done a lot of walleye fishing on Stockton that time of year, and it's the exact same thing that we do. It's literally get it to exactly what you say and freaking cast out, and you just let it sit there.
It's not so much the retrieve. I don't think it's so much the retrieve, it's the pause. It's, do you let it set for 5 seconds, 2 seconds, 10 seconds? That's the deal.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's, they want it just pause for just a few seconds.
Yeah.
Sometimes you sit there and you're like,
Get bored waiting.
That's exactly, I mean, on the
watch your
wall,
line.
on the walleye on Stockton, that's when we were catching all the walleye. It was, we're sitting there talking, and it's hard to not think about it, but you really have to be like painstaking amount of time. If you're about to wind in a little bit or do a twitch, just give it another second. And it was always on those extended pauses that the walleye would hit. So
Then there's a big argument on line. Use fairly light line, 8 to 10 pound test. And there's an argument whether you use fluorocarbon or use monofilament. Of course, fluorocarbon sinks, so that's going to affect your bait as far as it sinking. Monofilament tends to float, so that's also going to affect your bait. So you kind of, either one's fine. People use both. I don't have a preference. I've used both. It's just you just got to get your bait set. That whole key is make sure that bait, and you want it setting fairly flat, nose down a little, but fairly flat. The only reason you want it nose down a little is when you snap it, it'll stay down. And it just you just want it to do this, just like Richard said earlier. You see them doing that, they pause, and that's what you want that bait to do.
So are you putting that lead wire or the tape part on the front end of the jerkbait then?
I'll put it in the water and see what the bait does.
Okay.
They're all different. Some of them I've got directly in the center. Some of them I got right up underneath the bill and the nose. But it's just however, every bait's different. Even the ones you buy that are handmade. Brian makes great.
Yeah.
You just have to test it and get it the way you like it.
Interesting. That's a really, really interesting. Well, we'll obviously be talking about bass fishing as we get closer to March. That'll come a lot more into play. I mean, we did, I think your bass report at the end of November was the last bass report we did. And you had a
It's
good,
because I start hunting.
yeah.
And it gets too cold.
You're right.
And I'm too big of a wuss to get out there and fish for bass. Now, I do crappie fishing.
Right.
I'm not near as good as these guys.
Well,
I just go
that's-
out there and
That's about
catch a couple.
I'm the same way, and
Pulled my
then
butt several times.
all the other bass guys that contribute are either hunting and doing the same thing, or they're fishing like the Ozarks. So that's just the way it is. One of the other things coming up, and we'll talk about it a little bit more in the March guide dinner, but Spoonbill snagging season is going to start. Is it March 15th that it starts?
Yep.
I can tell you, because usually when I get in the boat about crappie time and it stinks so bad I can't hardly stand it. I know he's been Spoonbill.
That's Hunter's boat, yes.
It's Hunter's boat.
Hunter, so tell me a little bit about what you've been doing targeting the Spoonbill, because you do it a little bit different. Cody's really known for it. What's your method of targeting them?
I make a lot of people mad the way I do it. I just take a catfish rod with a big open cast reel with an 8-ounce sinker and 2 treble hooks above it, just like a regular snag, and I just pitch right out to them and snag them. I mean, it's pretty simple with the live scope.
He live scopes.
He live
It's pretty simple. I ain't gonna lie, like the very first night we went out and tried it, the very first night last year, or 2 years ago, I went out and we caught 2 all night long. It was terrible. Well, I went out the next day, I was like, I gotta figure this out. So I sat there and I just practiced and practiced and practiced, and I finally figured out you gotta lead them out. Because the spoonbill are always moving, they're never sitting still. And it's, once you get it figured out, it's pretty darn fun.
Now, you've been regular snagging,
Yeah.
I assume. So, in your opinion, now that you've figured it out, which one's more fun?
Get your live scope.
I'll answer that.
Yeah.
Heck with that jerking.
We even got Dad out last year. And, you go down there and people are sitting there snagging like normal, and they're looking at you like, how is this guy catching
And
so
they've been there
many?
all night long.
Yeah.
They get aggravated with you, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fun.
Yeah. Well,
But it's amazing with that live scope. You never knew them fish were there. I mean, I pulled in the mouth
Everywhere.
of one of them creeks. I think me and you did. And it was up in the upper end of the Grand and watermelon, mouth of watermelon. And we thought, what in the world was all that? There must have been 500
And
freaking
nobody
giant
does it up
spoonbill
And your think is like
just piled in there.
they're on the bottom or they're in little holes. No.
No.
You find a flat,
Foot
like,
underwater.
down there below the dam, you find just somewhere, if you like, the way I do it, the current's always so bad, I just try to find something just right out of the current where a troll motor can keep up with it. And that's where a bunch of them will be sitting at. And they'll be shallow. I've caught some that are 2 foot under the water. You know, there will be some on the bottom, but don't even mess with them if you're going to live scope and go for the shallow ones.
yeah.
Way easier.
Yeah.
And
No, it's fun.
as far
Let's
as
be honest.
snagging on Truman, to Darren's point, Osage arm, I see him come up to the surface just
Oh,
while you're
yeah.
fishing all the time. But basically, Hunter, your opinion is you could go anywhere on Truman. But is there a hot spot where it's like, is the Grand Arm really good? Is the Osage arm the best?
I went pre-fishing for, I think it was the ACT last year on the Osage arm. It was down by Osceola, and I seen a bunch of spoonbill down there. I put in a bucksaw a couple times last year and caught them right there next to bucksaw. But the best is right there below the dam, in my opinion, because it's a lot skinnier water. You can see a lot more spoonbill. You don't have to cover as much water.
But the thing down there, you gotta fight the boats.
Yeah.
Hunter said, Dad, you've not done it, come on. So we took his boat, Sean's boat, so we got 2 other, they've got a Skeeter and a Phoenix. Me and Sean went together, him and his mother went. And before I got around the corner from Bucksaw, he done had his 2 caught. We left at the same time.
Yeah.
And I had never done it. Get out my way. And I'll tell you this too, one fish they caught that day, that afternoon, it was only out about an hour, this is honest to God's truth. I was chasing this fish and it went in front of his boat. We're just out there playing. We're in the wide open middle of the lake, just jacking around. So I'm trying to catch this, make a bad pitch and then run out there about here, 10 feet. So you pitch again. He went in front of his boat, so I just turned and anyway, he snagged that fish, and the fish went to the bottom, and it was only like I think 15 foot, and it's laying there. But he broke his line, and it had both hooks and the sinker on it. He said, "Dad, come here. He's laying right here." And my wife got him two hooks and a sinker. This is true. And he's retying while he's watching his fish. And he's sitting there watching. I said, "You catch it. That's your fish now." So that fish came back up, and he caught that fish and got his hook. Hooks and sinker back. Honest to God, he did.
That's unreal.
Watched it go down and sit there, and he's sitting there tying on watching his fish, and the fish came back up, got it, and got his bait back, or his tackle back.
So, how booked up are you for this spring? Are you booking trips now or what?
Yeah, book as many as I can. It's fun. And
He's
one thing
gonna,
that's
he's gonna do weekends.
Yeah.
weekends.
Okay.
One thing that's really cool that a lot of people don't believe me is that me and my brother have caught banded spoonbill in Lake the Ozarks, but they're banded in Truman.
Really?
Made it through the dam.
Made it
Both
through.
have got one.
Yep.
Bobby Dorn.
Interesting.
The first one I caught, I was like, whatever. And then Sean caught one, and the same thing.
Lake of the Ozarks is the same way. It's pretty funny. Everyone snags it on the main lake, but all them creeks full,
Full, yeah.
Mm.
full.
It's
Well, they've stocked a bunch more.
Yeah, they did.
This year.
Yeah.
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 It's loaded with them. I don't know that they need to stock anymore. It's loaded.
I
Yeah.
seen a giant not
Yeah.
too long ago.
There's some
Yeah,
big
big.
There's some big ones.
Big
I think this year Darren's going to use his boat. So that's going to be nice.
Yeah.
That
so,
new one?
Yeah, Darren's got a really nice new boat. Great size.
It looked good.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Yeah, ideal.
So,
You'll have to pull another boat behind it. Fishing, you're not putting that nasty,
Right.
greasy thing in there.
so what boat did you get, Darren?
I got the new Nitro Z21 XL
Okay.
this year. That's what I got. It's a little different hull design this year. They kind of changed it completely. They did a new hull design. They completely changed the inside.
Mhm.
Inside, all the compartments are all different. They took the carpet out of the floorboard, so down there where that carpet always gets wet, and you can't never get it to dry out. It's wet all the time. It's gone.
Mhm.
It's got a pad down there now. It's really nice. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of weird when I get in and there's
Right.
nothing. You're like, whoa.
Yeah.
But no, it's cool. I barely got it broke in. I've really never even run it hard because
Yeah.
the only day I could really open it up, it was too cold.
Yeah.
Would you
But
like to learn of that?
I'm
Learn that a
not,
little
uh,
bit? We'll take it.
I'd let you guys do it, but he's not taking it.
I was gonna say that sounds even more perfect for the spoonbill when there's no
Yeah.
carpet, nothing to get
Throw it
dirty.
down there.
That big a
Yeah,
boat.
yeah,
cut
what
the
are you
rope.
complaining about? No
No.
carpet in the bottom of it? We
Yeah.
can put all the spoonbill right in the bottom.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Put your feet up on top of it. Good to go.
It would look good.
not good.
You were talking earlier about power poles and the debate of doing paddles. So, kind of walk through
So-
folks that don't have power poles or people that are maybe considering it.
I was anti-power pole for a long time, especially on Truman, because I was always worried about them getting hung on trees.
Mm-hmm.
And they do get hung up a little bit, but they're tough. I
Mhm.
mean, they'll bounce right off of them. But since I've had them, I don't know that I can be without them.
Mhm.
I mean, especially bass fishing or spring crappie fishing. You just pull up, you start catching them, you know, because springtime they'll get wadded up in a certain 15, 20 foot area on the bank, and you just hit the button and you're locked.
Mm-hmm.
And you just sit there and keep fishing. If you need to retie, you just hit the button.
Mhm.
You don't blow off. They're really nice. Pull up to the dock. If everybody's loaded up on the dock and you can't get a place to tie, just nose up there, drop them.
Mm-hmm.
You can step off on the dock.
If we, didn't
We
have this
like
year-
them because of the blades. We got actual blades on them.
If we didn't have them for that one term, we wouldn't have won it.
We wouldn't have won it.
No,
I
no
mean,
chance.
they change your boat so much. When you have them paddles down and open and you drop them, it completely changes
It's
your
like an
boat.
emergency
When
brake.
you're going with the wind, you know, normally a boat's hopping. You put them down, it just kind of settles it down.
Just locks you
Okay.
down, settles everything down, slows you down.
Yeah.
They're really nice, and I was not for them, but
Yeah.
I am now. I won't be without
I've
them
got
now.
some coming, but they ain't gonna make it here for my first tournament.
I'm kind of curious. I mean, power poles, they're not cheap, but sounds like a necessity if you're, especially if you're a crappie tournament guy.
And I just run the 8-footers, and you can get 10s, 12s, 15s, you get however long you
Jeez.
want now.
How much, I mean, what kind of price for folks that might be interested in adding paddles to their power poles?
The
Are they,
The paddles are fairly reasonable, but they're $280 a piece, I think, the paddles
About
are.
Okay.
$500
okay,
And
for a set.
the set of power poles they're gonna run about 1,800, I think,
piece,
pretty
yeah.
close.
A piece.
A piece,
That's the
yeah.
pump and everything.
yeah,
That's pumps, yeah, you have 2 pumps mounted in the back.
But the thing is, you know, if you want the power poles for the paddles, they only make a 4-foot paddle. So
Mm.
whether you got
Right.
8 foot, 10 foot, 12 foot, you got a sand paddle.
Mm.
So, I like the 8-footers. They do everything I need them to do and
Yeah.
they work great.
You get
That's
two
what,
on
that's
those,
what I'm
maybe.
going with on mine.
That's all you need, cause all you want, you know, we don't, I mean, other than spring, we don't put down in the mud. And you start chasing a fish, you drop them down, the boat will kill itself, and then you can kind of fish that fish, and it's gone, and you move on. But it's you got to have it. It's
Yeah.
I'll never own a boat without them again.
Mm.
That's big for him saying that.
Yeah.
Right.
Does that mean
I'm
mine's getting
serious.
some then?
Huh?
Does that mean mine's getting some then?
No, not
You're
yours.
half owner. You're half owner.
It helps a lot. You know, a lot of times in them tournaments, Kyler fishes them 100, they fish them a lot. When you're chasing one single big fish and you're on 5% on it, or 10%, 20%, whatever, moving kind of fast because the fish is moving fast, and then he stops and cocks sideways, you got to stop too. You can't, if you kick that trolling motor around him and backwash him, he's going to be gone. You got to drop them power poles, and it'll give you time to drop on that fish. But if you don't have that, you're going to skate right on by him, or you're going to kick that trolling motor around and blow that water on him, and you're gonna, if he's shallow, you're gonna spook him. So
Yeah.
power poles is, to me, a must.
Yeah.
It's amazing how much that, they're only that wide.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
small.
When you drop them things down, I mean, you can feel it. Totally, I mean.
It'll throw you on the
lean
boat.
forward, It'll throw you
Yeah.
on the boat.
If you're 100% going forward, you got somebody standing beside you, and you don't tell them, you just eat real fast.
It is wrong.
You can lawn dart them. They're in the water.
Yeah. Wow. So on the same kind of vein as accessories, we were talking about the graphs earlier, and specifically the Garmin update recently. I wanted to touch on that, see what your guys' thoughts were. Kyler, have you done the update on yours?
Negative.
Negative. Darren has not. Hunter, you have?
I have not, but I fished with it with Dad.
Okay.
I'm gonna do mine, I guess, but
So you've done the update.
I did on the boat that I'm guiding out of, yes.
So, I guess, what are your thoughts? So, what was the update for? What did it fix? What has been your experience thus far?
Man, that's a lot, one question, but I like to run my graph hot. I leave the TVG off, the color gain, whatever. I leave everything off, TVG, the noise rejection off. I run it hot. I can see there's a lot of clutter in my graph, but I can tell, you know, before this, I could tell you pretty much what that fish weighed if I'm fishing for one fish. I can tell you what that fish is going to be. By doing this, on this graph, I put the deal in it, I updated it, and now then it's more like turning on, to me, it's like turning on your TVG on medium and turning on your noise gain up to something. It's more of a, instead of, I could see the scales on a fish the way I had it. And now then, this is more like just I don't know, it's more like having that stuff on, and it's a blob coming to your bait. You can see all the fish, but at first I thought it was a good idea. And I've had it on there for about 4 days now in a row, and the more I use it, the more I'm not liking it. But every graph's different, every black box is different. I'm thinking that this one had, on this graph, on a Garmin, you know, you got your wedges. Whenever you turn it on, you can see all these wedges on the screen. That took all that out. It did. And now it's a black screen, and the fish, I've got it on amber. And you can see all the fish, but it's not shaped like a fish now. It's shaped, I mean, you can see it moving and all, but you can't see the
It's not
size.
as defined.
No,
as,
it's not near as
yeah.
defined. So,
And
But-
what was the purpose of the update? It was supposed to make the screen
It took-
clearer?
it took that clutter out and made it clear. There's no clutter.
see the first videos I seen of it almost made your baits look, you could see them up brighter, a lot easier going down, but
I
don't
can
know.
see my bait pretty good out there, and you made a comment too, that
Yeah.
you didn't like it as much. You can see that bait out there, you know, 25 feet, I shoot at 30 feet, 20 yards. I can see that bait, and I can see it down to about 12 feet. And then that's a 16-ounce jig, which is pretty good. But when it gets down to that deep, then it kind of disappears. You can't see it as good. And I don't know if it's because of the black box, the graph, what, but, and two, I'll tell you, the first 2 days, the graph was on 12.4 volts, the battery. Now then, today when I was out, it was on 11.8 or 9. So, and it kind of got fuzzy like, kind of, it just didn't look as plain as it should have, I thought. So, I've just got the new boat in. I will not update mine yet.
Well, I can say that I have honestly, I've never updated mine.
I was leery about the first update
Now I bought mine, and it's how it is. Whatever, I like it.
The first update I did, which
Don't
was
fix
months
what's
ago.
not broke.
Yeah,
Mine's not broke. Yours fine.
yeah.
You know, the first update I did on this graph here, it put some different settings in the button where you didn't have to go through menu and go through stuff. This is just, you hit the button, and do whatever you want. Now, before you had to go through menu and turn the knob, do this, do this, and do this. Now then, the first one was, you know, you had your gain, your forward, and your down, all in one knob, and it was simple. And this one, I'm not sold on it yet.
Yeah. So let's just say that thought process continues. Is Garmin still gonna be the graph, or are you gonna be thinking about switching?
No, I won't switch.
Okay.
Garmin's ahead of them on this. In my personal opinion, the side skin, Hummingbird's ahead. So the new boat I ordered's got Hummingbirds on the back and Garmin on the front.
Okay.
That's how mine's set up.
I like the Hummingbird side skin.
I do too.
You got Lowrance on the back?
No, I've got Hummingbird on the back, and I got Hummingbird on the front and Garmin on the front with
That's what I
360
got,
meg.
That's what I run.
So I heard Lowrance 360. There's something funky about it, where it has to get to like come to a stop and it resets, and it made it sound like it was like, what's the point type of deal. Is
Yeah,
that
I've
is
done
that
it.
what's is that true? Do you know what's?
I'm not real sure on it.
Okay.
I changed I run Lowrance for 20 years, and I finally switched because they weren't keeping up. Hummingbird had great side scan. Garmin come out their live scope, or like, if you didn't have it, you weren't competing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then me, I was competing. I could still go catch fish with my Lowrance graphs, but
Yeah.
to compete in tournaments, you had to have that stuff, or you just might as well stay home.
Yeah.
I will say that Jeff had shot some video probably about 3 weeks ago, and he's on the T-bow shooting the trees inside with the crappie with a Lowrance, and that was as good a picture as I've ever seen.
It was. That's the graph I was looking at it, and it was incredible.
Was a good picture.
Yeah, very, very good. Well, guys, we've covered a lot of topics. We've covered a lot of fishing. We're coming up on about an hour, so I think it's a good time to wrap up. I don't know if anybody had any other final thoughts on anything, but one last reminder, Truman Lake Fishing Expo, Friday, February 11th, Saturday, February 12th. So come out and see us. Come out and see all the other vendors right here in Clinton, Missouri at the Benson Convention Center. That's where it'll be. So hope to see you guys out there. Thank you for watching. Before we sign off, Kyler Beckman here. What's the best way to get a hold of you?
573-789-3263. Give me a call, shoot me a text message. If I don't answer, I'll get back to you as soon as I can.
Richard Bowling from Richard Bowling's Guide Service. What's the best number to reach you?
660-351-5361.
Perfect. And then Hunter Bowling, or you're still under the Richard Bowling
All right,
umbrella?
old man.
Okay.
He's the umbrella plane.
So you want to get a spoonbill trip, better call Richard. He'll get you hooked up with Hunter.
Yep.
And then Darren Langford, who big time tournament angler, doesn't do the guiding.
No, not too much.
He's still owed a guide trip though from.
Oh yeah.
He just babysitting Hunter right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
My nappy-headed kid.
Yep.
we appreciate all these guys and their vast knowledge of Truman Lake. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you ever have any questions or future topics you want us to touch on, be sure to write in, post, send a message into the Facebook page, and we'll be sure to do the best we can to answer anything that you need. Thanks again for watching. We'll look forward to seeing you on the next one.